Hi, good morning everyone. Sarah Pacaro, Rapid Transformational Therapist, and I work with people who are recovering on the journey and road to healing from within after having been in toxic and unhealthy relationships. And you see that that is like the last domino to fall over, but if you look at all the other ones connected and related to it, especially that very first one that caused it to all knock over, all fall apart, you'll see that it's very much rooted in your past. And you see this connection and this problems that all these issues and problems that you're having hold hands. They're all connected and related. So getting to the root cause of it is really the most profound, phenomenal, and impactful way to heal from this most current recent issue. And you'll notice this all goes back to your childhood. And if you're like me, you said, oh, I had a good childhood. I had good parents. They were around. Yes, they were divorced, but they, gave me what I wanted and needed. But if you're a parent yourself, like I am, you realize that that's an impossible task. It's just simply impossible to give your child everything that they need emotionally, particularly because we're human. And so we all have things from our past that are connected and related to where we are now in our present and our current. So we're going to talk about 15 things that you may notice about yourself that are connected and related to that past, that are linked to childhood emotional neglect. And this is just something I know that I do it too. As awesome as I strive to be as a parent, I see it, and it's just simply unavoidable. And it does tremendously impact where you're at in life today and all the choices that you make, because those become inner subconscious beliefs that you have about yourself that get outwardly expressed. Just like the narcissist and toxic person, theirs is just at a much deeper level, and they are unwilling to admit that there's anything wrong with them and unwilling to do anything to change. But you, in that relationship and dynamic, cannot do anything to control or change them. You can simply go within yourself and control and change what it is within you that's causing you to be in this situation and have this experience that you're having today that unlikely is a very good one. So there's 15 things that show if you've experienced childhood emotional neglect. The first one is that in your role today, you assume the carer position, when maybe it's within your siblings, within your family, in your family of origin, you assume the carer position. You were the one that cared about everyone. It was your siblings, it was your parents, and maybe you became the parent because maybe you came from a parent who was an alcoholic, or you came from parents who were just emotionally checked out and gone, and you had to step up and be that role so that your family, your siblings could feel loved and get the things that they need and wanted. So if you experience childhood emotional neglect, you'll notice that you're the carer, the nurturer, the lover, and this coincides with becoming an empath later on in life. So maybe you grew up to believe that your needs didn't matter because no one demonstrated that your needs mattered. You didn't feel safe to express your needs when you were a child, and so you grew up feeling that you don't matter and your needs don't matter, especially those emotional needs were never met. Maybe you didn't develop compassion for yourself. You put everyone else before you, and you didn't develop that same compassion that you give outwardly and express towards others, towards yourself. That's certainly a result of childhood emotional neglect. During challenging times, you learn to self-soothe alone. Many times when working with people, they go up to their room and they're alone, or they're outside, they're playing alone, or they're in the corner in the closet crying alone, and they can hear their family, their parents arguing downstairs, and they're upstairs, or they're somewhere else within the house alone, self-soothing. That's a sign of childhood emotional neglect. If you self-soothe alone and you don't like to be around others, you have this fear of letting others in, this fear of trusting. That's a big one. You develop an extreme level of self-sufficiency. You take this role of like, I've got it, I'm good, I'm successful, I can do this, and you push others away. You don't need others. You've developed this extreme level of self-sufficiency, like, I don't need anyone else, I've got it. And you notice this in a relationship too, where you can't ever really completely connect to people because you have this feeling of like, I've got it, I don't need you, I'm fine. You develop a deep sense of emptiness, this craving, starving for connection that was never satisfied when you were a child. And you'll notice now this has a direct correlation and link to using things to numb, like food. You turn to food. You become an emotional eater. You turn to alcohol. You turn to medication to make this feeling, this empty feeling in this pit of your stomach. Feels like this black hole no matter how much food you eat. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's not food. No matter how much you exercise, you simply can't satisfy or feel filled or satisfied. There's this deep sense of emptiness and this craving for connection that was never satisfied when you were younger. If you experienced childhood emotional neglect, you struggle to receive love because it feels unfamiliar. Maybe you weren't told that I love you by your parents. Maybe you weren't hugged. Maybe you weren't shown affection. Maybe you weren't kissed. Maybe you weren't coddled. When you fell down and scraped your knee, it was like, come on, get up. I'll give you something to cry about. Get up. You're fine. Come on, get over it. Let's go. You struggle to receive love as an adult now because you didn't receive love, or when you did, it felt weird. Like, what are you doing? What's your intention? There's an ulterior motive here. And so now, as an adult, you struggle to receive love because it just feels so foreign. It feels so unfamiliar. But you'll notice that you don't share your feelings because you grew up squashing them down, pushing them down. Well, if that's how you grew up, squashing and pushing down your feelings, you weren't given a safe space to express them, to feel those feelings, there's no magic wand or pill or snapping of fingers that's going to go, oh, I'm an adult, I'm independent, and in a relationship. I'm going to share all my feelings with you. It simply is unfamiliar. What's familiar is pushing and squashing those feelings down because you had to do that when you were a child. Guess what you're going to do, inevitably, by default, when you are an adult, and guess what it's going to impact? Every relationship and all the feelings that you have about yourself, because now you don't feel safe to trust or express these feelings now. So if you grew up having to squash your feelings down, yeah, you're an adult who also squashes your feelings down. If you weren't praised for the kindness or respect that you gave others, maybe you did that. You were very kind, very loving, very nurturing towards others. You were that kid who was so nice, so kind. If that went unrecognized, you did that to receive attention, recognition, and you were so nice to other people. If you weren't praised for that, if your parents simply didn't notice that, see that, like respond to that, that is a sign of childhood emotional neglect. You're always doing things because you're like, hey, look, I just did something really kind and nice. Mom, Dad, anybody? Did you even notice that? And you start to develop resentment and anger within because it went unnoticed, unrecognized. You weren't praised for the kindness that you gave others. If you grew up with this imbalance of give and take, and this is very much prevalent in growing up in relationships or families that are toxic, having a parent who's, an alcoholic or a narcissist are very toxic traits, there's an imbalance of give and take. They take, and you are expected to give. Well, where is it that you take? There's this balance, this pendulum that needs to not be like this, which oftentimes it is, but there was an imbalance of give and take, and you got used to this imbalance. It was like, well, I'm always expected to give, and I have to give because if I don't, then I get in trouble and I get grounded, or I have these needs that aren't met. I don't get what I want, and what I want is to be praised, loved, feeling connected. In order to do that, I have to give, but there's no taking. If I dare take, who am I to take? I get punished a little for that. So you'll notice that you grew up with this imbalance and you got used to it. The next ones that we'll go over, that you feel an excessive responsibility for others' emotions. Hello, impasse and codependence. If you grew up with childhood emotional neglect, you feel excessive responsibility for others' emotions, and you are always wanting them to feel happy and like you and accept you, and you're afraid to do anything because what if they judge you or they don't like what you did. So you feel this excessive responsibility, and so you become that people pleaser and always saying yes and wanting to take things on and help out because it's so difficult to say no, because you not only feel responsibility for others' emotions, but this excessive responsibility. The next thing is you'll notice you feel like who you are, like you, inside your core persona, your core personality, your traits is inherently flawed, is not good enough. ever. Like, who you are as a person is not good enough. Not just like, oh, I made a mistake, I messed up, I did something bad. Whoops, it's okay. I'm still a good person. No, you feel inherently flawed, and who you are is not good enough. The next thing you'll notice is that you struggle to express your emotions. You have limited vocabulary. So you find that you often get tongue-tied when you're trying to express yourself, when you're trying to say what's going on within and let it out and express yourself. And I feel you just get like, it's almost like you can't swallow, like it's just stuck in your throat. You feel that you can't express that. You struggle. Your vocabulary becomes very limited because there's this disconnection between what you feel and what your mind and your mouth are trying to speak and convey. That's a sign of childhood emotional neglect, where you just feel like, I don't know. You'll notice you say that a lot. I don't know. You do know, but you struggle to convey it. You feel that you've never had a safe space to be authentically you, and this shows up in toxic and unhealthy relationships. All of us are multidimensional, and we're like happy, we're sad, we're expressive, we're creative, we're goofy, we're boring, we're just sometimes, or we're angry, we're pissed, whatever it is. You feel that you can't authentically express all of you. You have to be one way all the time. You have to be happy and bubbly, and you feel like it's not safe for you to be like, it's been a really effed up day. It's been a really shitty day, and I'm just gonna sit on the couch and watch Netflix and eat popcorn, and that's okay. But you don't feel that you have a safe space to be authentically you, because you're expected to be this certain way, and you have to be that certain way all the time. But other people in your life can express themselves in all parts of themselves, but you personally don't feel that there's a safe space to authentically express you. And that's where this disconnect comes in. This emotional neglect that you felt when you were younger now is impacting your life as you're older. And then you fear being dependent on anyone. And so insert this independence and this feeling of, I've got this success, this overachievement, and maybe it can make you very successful, but you fear being dependent on anyone. You don't like asking for help because you feel that asking for help shows that you're weak or you can't handle it, and so you fear asking for help or fear being dependent on anyone, because in the past, when you were a child, a dependent child, which you all are, we all were when we were children, you're dependent on the adults around you. You were let down, you were hurt, your emotional needs got crushed. And so now you think, it's not safe to be dependent on anyone. So now as an adult, you fear being dependent on anyone. All of these are signs of childhood emotional neglect, where you felt invisible as a child, and they hang over your head like a cloud. You feel this fog, this heaviness over you. So all of these are things that directly are linked to and correlated to being in a toxic and unhealthy relationship as an adult. And that's why I always share, yes, you can learn all you want about the narcissist. You can hang out in forums and you can continue to feel shitty about yourself because of that narcissist or that toxic person, or you can make the choice. You can make the choice to say, that is them, and I don't want to be a part of that anymore, so I'm going to separate myself, go within, figure out myself and what it is within me and why I ever got into a situation like that in the first place. And that's about going within to healing, and healing those childhood emotional wounds that have now been carried into your adult life, because there's no magic number like 18 or 21 that you turn and all these things magically get shut off and go away or disappear. You've got to go within and do the work to heal, and that's where the answer is. What is your experience of childhood? What things were missing? What holes are there? And then filling those holes with good things, not filling them or trying to numb them. So, thank you guys, as always, for watching. I hope these 15 signs of childhood emotional neglect, maybe you see yourself in them, which is not a bad thing, because everyone's got some of them, at least. And if you have been in a really toxic or narcissistic relationship, you'll see that you have more rather than less. But there is a way to heal, a powerful way to heal, if you're willing to do the work. I'd love to connect with you, and I hope that this resonates with you and give you some insight on maybe a direction to go, because oftentimes you feel like, I don't even know where to start. Especially if you've been trying to fix it on your own, reading books, talking to counselor, friends, or therapists at the conscious level, and really these are subconscious patterns and beliefs. So it is about going deeply within yourself and your subconscious mind, where the real change takes place. thank you as always. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.